To talk about the Korean culture a little bit, I'll just give a brief history. There aren't really many history books to learn from. I tried to learn as much of the history as I could, and having a native companion for a while was very helpful to me because I felt like it was hard for me to sometimes connect with the people and really know how to help them. The Korean people, it's just a small ethnic group from Burma, but Burma, the country is called Myanmar now, but all the Korean people still refer to it as Burma. It's a country right by Thailand. And this group of people, they actually lived in their own state called like Korean State. I think there's 8 different ethnic groups from Burma and just many different languages and dialects. And because of the fighting and wars, civil wars in Burma, many of them had to flee because many of the Burmese soldiers were just like burning down their houses, and it's just very, very difficult situation. And it was just better for a lot of them to flee than to work with some of the Burmese people. And so many of them had to just run in the nighttime so they wouldn't be caught, run with their families, run without their families, and just run through the jungles and rivers. There's really, really interesting stories you can hear from these refugees, and many of them made their way eventually to refugee camps in Thailand. There's many, many different refugee camps in Thailand. I used to have all the names memorized, but now I can't remember too many of them. I think there's around 5 to 8 main ones. And some of them are really big, and they're just full of Korean people, and they had to stay in the refugee camps. And eventually, a lot of them, I think it was through the United Nations, would help them eventually come to different countries where they could try to live a different life, a better life for their family and for their kids. And so many of the adults did want that, and it was a difficult and long process for people to be able to leave these refugee camps. Many of them, it was all that they knew. They'd lived in the camps for years and years. And so the members and the Korean people in Minnesota, the ones who had been there the longest had only been there for about 6 or 7 years. So many of them are still coming over to the United States and to other countries as well with their families. And they're coming to live a better life and hopefully let their children be more educated and have a different life. And it's just so faithful of them and so amazing for these people just to move somewhere where they don't know anyone and where they don't know the language or the system. Just a complete change, and I just admired them so much for what they were doing for their families. It must be so hard when they get to the new place where they're going to live. The government helps them a lot to find housing and to help them with health care and to help them eventually be able to find jobs and get their kids into schools. But many of them don't have very many possessions at all. They just have maybe some clothes. And their families, I felt like the Korean families were so strong. They really took care of their families. And they were used to living together in smaller spaces, and so if they had a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment, they would all kind of share just small spaces of it, which I thought was really interesting. And they had these beautiful Korean mats all over the floor that they would sleep on and sit on, and it was really fun to learn part of that culture. These people are some of the kindest, most generous and giving people I'd ever met. They would help each other whenever they could, and they would help us, even when they hardly had any possessions or much to give or money. It didn't matter. They'd help anybody. They were so caring and so wonderful and just nice and sweet. And I really felt like I needed to be more loving and more kind because of learning from these people. It was interesting to help some of them adjust more to America and to get to know our culture a little bit and to help them understand how to go shopping at the grocery store and understand foods that they could buy and understand even different cleaning chemicals for their house, help them understand how to clean their apartment and how to travel, use public transportation, just all the different aspects of our lives that we're so used to, and it's just a very different system for them. Even driving in cars, helping them. It was great. I love the Quran people, and I'm so grateful I was able to become so close to many of them. It was very interesting teaching them. Many of them are Christian, typically Baptist. And whenever I would travel around with my companions to contact and to find people to teach about the gospel, they were all so open and so willing. They let us in every time we knocked on a new door. They would always let us in. They'd be so willing and humble, and they loved to hear what we had to say, and they were so nice, and they'd try to feed us, and they'd want us to pray with them. And it was really, really great. I loved teaching them. They were very open, and they loved the Bible. So many of them had their Bible, and it was so special and so precious to them. And we loved reading with them and praying with them. Very religious people. It wasn't hard at all to get them to pray, which is occasionally sometimes hard with American investigators. They love to do little get-togethers and have, they call them like prayer meetings, kind of, or like prayer parties. And it was kind of a like religious gathering. They'd have all their friends come over to their house, and they'd have a pastor there or someone willing to give like a little sermon and a prayer. And they would do this on special occasions. They would do it for maybe birthdays, or they would do it on like anniversaries of ancestors who had passed away. They do it like the next year or so. And other special occasions, and they'd all get together and they would sing and they'd read from the Bible, and then they would pray together. And I really liked that tradition of just all, like gathering all your closest family and friends together and praying together. I liked that tradition of theirs a lot. They always were so willing to cook and to share their food with anybody. They'd let anybody come. And so as a missionary, it was exciting to go to all of these different gatherings and parties and be able to just bond with these people through these special experiences and through praying with them. It was so fun to sit down on their beautiful woven mats. Everyone would sit down kind of in a circle, and then they'd have food in the middle. And typically they would pass around little bowls of rice, and then you put whatever you want on the rice, which was sometimes nice because I got to pick what things I was willing to try and willing to eat, and things that maybe I wasn't feeling so adventurous to eat, I'd just put a little bit on the side. They'd pass around all these other bowls of food that you just mix in with your rice and eat, and then you just typically talk and remember the person that they're trying to remember, or if it's a birthday party, you talk about the person. It was a good experience. I kind of miss that. Some of the holidays were really exciting as well. Korean New Year is really big. This year, I think they were celebrating the year 2756 because their calendar is a little bit different than ours. And it's a huge gathering in the community, typically at a church or at a school, just somewhere with a large, like, auditorium. And the Karen people dress in their, like, cultural dress, which is really brightly woven fabrics and these kind of like square shirts with like necks cut out in V's, and then these wrapped skirts. So we're really bright colors, really pretty, fabric wrapped around their heads as well. And then they would dance and do traditional songs and music. And the dances were so interesting. It was a lot of like hand movements for their dancing, and then they would kind of march around in a circle or in lines, like rows, and mostly move their arms and sing. And so Korean New Year was really fun, really exciting, because it was most of the people in the community gathered together, most of the Korean people in the community gathered together to watch these performances and to just really reflect on their culture and their lives. It was really exciting. I loved going to Korean New Year. They also had a holiday called Matu Ni Ramuni. It's kind of like I think it's called like Martyr Day. It would be translated in English. So it's kind of like Memorial Day for us, where they remember people in their lives that have sacrificed and fought for them. And it's in the summer. And they do a wrist tying ceremony. So they tie string around their wrists, and they match it to like their families, so it like binds them together as a family. They tie it on their wrists. And then there's usually like a big soccer tournament and song and dance as well. One of my other favorite holidays that they have is called Sweet December, and it's on the day before December 1st, so the end of November, and it lasts until midnight or longer, and they welcome in the Christmas season. And they probably celebrate a bigger party than they do Christmas. They're just so excited for the whole Christmas season because they are Christian, and they're excited to celebrate the baby Jesus. And it's just a big party with food and family and praying and song and dance again on right before December. And I thought that was exciting.